break. All right. So we are looking at creating a site using the tool called Mesh tool. And we will also introduce something called solid element operation and the gravity tool along with that. So yeah, let's get to it. So the first part is I'm going to assume a case where we have the site model or site drawing is prepared and it's a DWG file. You can also work otherwise, but for this particular session, I'm going to consider that case where we have a DWG file for the site, and I'm going to bring it using the same worksheet concept, and I'm going to just give it as reference. So one, create. Now it's going to create a worksheet. Now I need to do a drag and drop. So I'll do a search for the file. So here, file location. So I'll have a DWG file here called site drawing. I hope one of this. Now I do a drag and drop. Now it's asking me which unit. I'll do a place. I'm assuming this is correctly placed, but if you want, you can just readjust and make sure they're matched properly. I have not given anything here other than just the lines. When you're having this, you will also usually have all the heights and details here. So this would be the first step to bring in the CAD file. So if the file is properly done, like using polylines and not broken, you can use the XRF method itself to bring them in so that it is going to be easy for you to work. But this particular CAD file is actually broken into different segments, so we may not be able to use the magic wand tool properly. So that's why I'm approaching it this way. Next thing is that we will be doing is to trace these things. So let me let me do that here itself. So I'll come back to this point and I'll go to document, I'll take the spline tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft on the top of this. I'm not going to draw all of them, just a couple of contour lines here so that you will understand the concept. So I'll leave one of the contour and do only the rest. So I'm just approximately taking. This method is done, like I mentioned, only where if your lines are not proper, you can approach it. Otherwise, I will always encourage have a good CAD file and import it and check whether it is broken or not. If it is not, you're good to go. So let me just draw this. So I'm taking also a little extra so that when I use the magic wand tool, it takes properly. This is also something that you can keep it in mind. So if you do any mistake, you can do backspace. It will go back to the last point, which we already did it in one of the session. And that makes our major lines here. You can see that. I will also add a rectangle if I want to. But anyway, I'll get back to my level 0. And what I'm going to do is I will make sure the tool is active. So that is going to be mesh tool. And that's here. Next thing is to set up its properties. So I'm going for fully solid. I can also give a thickness to the whole mesh, and that is, let's say, 5,000 or 50,000 or 10,000. I'll keep. Make sure it is at 0. And that's it for now. Rest of the details we will adjust it on the way. And we have to make sure the trace option is on. So I can come here and I think it should be site. Yeah. Show us trace reference, and I can see that. Now I do a rectangle here. So I can change the drafting method and draw the rectangle. Now this is going to be a simple flat plane. There is no information added to this. I think the thickness that I gave is too small. So let me just give it 10,000. Get back to floor plan. And I'll turn off the trace. And I'm going to do a different action here that is going to select all these splines and do a copy, that is Control C, and going to do Control V, that is going to be a paste. Only thing is that I need to make sure the lines are here to do this particular activity, and it's going to be easy for me, and later I can delete it also. Now, with respect to mesh works in different way. So when we especially work with a simple mesh, you can just pick one of these points and change its height. It will automatically create the triangle. So it will do the meshing between the points. But here, because we already have the contour, what we can do is we can attach these contours to this particular site. So remember this step, it is really relevant. Select the mesh, then select the mesh tool. You have to make sure the tool is active and the item is selected. After that, you can just hold on to your space bar. What it does is it will detect the line, and when I click enter or click on the point, it will ask me to make new mesh point. So you can have different method here. I'll go for the fit to all ridges and give OK. What it does is to all the points, it is going to add those contours. So I continue the same. Make sure the correct line is selected when you are holding the space bar, and here, and then we are done. So that is a step of adding the contour points. It is still flat. There is no heights or any information added. So let me just delete it and show it to you what it is. So only addition here is that you will see the contour lines. That's all. Now regarding creating the height, so let me just go with mentioning those heights here. So this is everything is 0. So let's say this particular point goes 2 meters up. So what I can do is I select the mesh, select one of the contour point here inside. Then I do click on the point, and in the pet palette, the option here, there is an option here called elevate mesh point. I click on it. Then what I do is I need to give the height. So let's say this is going 2000 mm up. Then I give apply to all so that all these points get the same value. When I give OK, it will start doing the triangulation. Now this is, let's say this is around 4000. Now that is going hit. Now here I have minus 2000. So I'm approximately giving, this is not the correct value. So if you know the value, it will be easy for you. Now this is going to be, let's say 6000. And let's say this is also 6000 minus 6000. I think I gave this a 6000 instead of minus 6000. Now you can see because this line and this line are having the same height, there is no need of triangulation. They are flat and it shows you like that. And wherever you see triangulation, they are having different heights altogether. Now to verify this, you can also go to the document tool and make use of the level dimension option. Using that, when I click on these points, it will show you what height it is in. So if I go to the settings and make sure I select the right type. You can also give these properties here, whether you want it static or parametric. So we are going for parametric, not static. Which type you want, and you can select that, and you make sure you click on the right element here. And display order being different. What is the text size? This is too big. This will increase to 15. Okay. Now you can see this is 0.6 or 6 meter, sorry. This is going to be 2 meter, and this is going to be 0, and this is going to be again 2 meter above and 4 meter above. Now any changes I'm going to do it in the plan or 3D is going to change these values as well. So this is one of the way of changing it. But there is an issue here that this point is still at 0 because we worked only on the contour points. So now what I can do is I can probably give this as 3000 over this. 3000, and you will see automatically this value also going to be updated. So 3000. So sometimes what we do is in the initial stages of project, we make the site model. Then we do certain changes like, let me just give this value. Certain site analysis you want to do it. At what level you want to put a slab or what level you want to make it flat. So these cases, what we go for is we will make sure the site model is completed. And after completing the site model, what we do is we make sure you do the analysis using these tools that we have. You can either go for a section from which you can work. Other option is what you can do is instead of sections, you can also make use of the values, and you can give the output here. So these are the two different techniques. You can do it for the analysis of the site. To avoid these triangulations, you can also go here and remove that cover fill, which will remove that particular field here. And also you can use the ridge selection and change it from show all ridges directly back to user defined ridges. What it does is it will remove the triangulation. It will show you the sight lines. You can change the color pens and all these details just like how we did it before. Now, when I look at it in 3D, you will see that these values are here. Then you can see it's already doing an overlap because I have not considered the heights at all. So let me just select the mesh and just move it down for now, some values. And then that is going to give you an output, something like this. Right, so that is about the site model, but you can see there are some issues already, like our site is coming into your building. So we need to cut this particular area. So there are different methods. One is you can create a building pad by drawing an outline. I'll just show you that here. I can just probably put a line something like this. And I can do the same thing by selecting the mesh. I'm going to the mesh tool. So that's here. Hold spacebar and click. This will make sure that all these points are added. And then I have to select these values and make sure they are of the same value here. So I'll just give it, let's say minus 3000. Now these values are going to be placed as 3000. So these values also requires to be edited. But anyway, let me just not do that and just show it to you how this changes. So you can see wherever the line was correct, they are giving the same values here. So what we do is ideally the case is that we have to set the contours before, then it becomes easy for you. You don't need to add. You can also readjust the positions of it. These are also some of the methods that we can do it. Main thing is that this is one of the method that we usually approach where we make sure these contours are set and then we give the correct values here. The other option that you have is, so let me just leave this because it's so many points are that I need to just readjust. It's not an ideal case to do it here. In 3D itself, you can select the slab because I'm considering I need to cut this particular mesh with the slab using the slab. So I do a right click, I go to connect, then there's an option called solid element operation. Now, this is going to be a parametric relationship that you can make it along with your objects. So this is the slab. So slab is going to be my operator because I'm going to cut the mesh using the operator that is a slab. Then I select the mesh, then I give it that this is a target. So you can see it's already selected and added one each here. Then there are multiple operations. One is subtraction, then we can have subtraction with upward extrusion, subtraction with the downward extrusion, intersection addition like that. I need to use this subtraction with upward extrusion so that whatever is above the slab needs to get cut. When I execute, you will see that is getting cut here. I can do the same for columns also. So I do select all the columns and then I tell that these are the operator and mesh is mesh is the target. Instead of upward extrusion, this time I do only subtraction and execute so that that part is cut out. Then we have all the beams. I'll select all the beams and also all the walls for now. I mean, no, it's not an ideal way of doing it together because you need to properly select which one actually matters to the selection. Otherwise, it might mess up your model altogether or make the file really heavy. So only use the one that are necessary. But for now, I'm just taking all of them. Add as operator, and your site is going to be the target, and use subtraction with upward extrusion and do an execute. And you can see wherever the beam is there, that is also cut. So solid element operation is going to be really easy. So combination of all these things, it will give you a freedom of creating the models altogether. So I hope this part is clear. If it is not, you can ask me now. Otherwise, we'll move ahead to the next part of the session. All right, I hope there are no doubts. We will move ahead to the next part. That was the last attribute that's called layers. So Archicad gives you the freedom of assigning elements into different layers. And that is going to be one of the foundational thing for creating different type of drawings. So layers in Archicad actually are containers because some of the other software does a different other job altogether. Like using layers, you can assign a line weight. But here we already see that that is done through pens. Layers here are purely containers for assigning certain elements into layers. So if you see here, this particular roof is right now assigned to a layer called shell general. And if you go to column, that is in structural bearing, beams are also in structural bearing. But if you see some of the important elements, for example, this, it's right now, this one, it's right now in interior lamp. This is also interior lamp. And we have some more other things that are not visible here, but they are also placed into different layers. And if you see site is in site and landscape terrain layer. So it would be ideal if you have a system or a system of layers in your office using which you can assign each element into different layers and organize your drawings. So that is what we are going to do here as well. What we do is we start with creating layers. So layer settings are here. Otherwise, you can also access it from options, element attributes, and layers. So this is also another way of using it. or you can also do Control L, that also will bring the layer settings. So you have two different things in layers. So on the left side, you have something called layer combination, which is very similar to pen sets. And on the right side, you have the layer settings altogether. So that also has this option of folder view and list view where you can arrange it and organize it. So you can go to this design folder in which there are 3 subfolders. And if I go to one of the subfolder, again, there are layers assigned to each of them. So this is how we can organize it. So if I need to create a new one, I can probably put a new folder, name it probably as training, give proper layers or layer naming according to your office. That will be better. I can click on new and name it as, let's say, 001. Let's go with the same order of how we modeled it. Column 002B, 003 slab, 004 roof, 005 walls, 006 let's see how model facade, and 007 ceiling or false ceiling. So this is how we create the layers. And you also have the option of hiding a layer, locking a layer, or seeing it in wireframe for 3D. And also you can work on the intersection details. So if same number are there, then they will be connecting, but that is not for right now. But just wanted to understand, keep it always to 1 until and unless you want elements to be disconnected. So you give OK, that was creating of the layers. Now you need to assign the layers. So I want to put all the columns now into one layer. So I select all the columns and this is where you assign the layer. Don't confuse with these symbols where it shows the I symbol or locking things. These are only just showing it to you what are the properties of that particular layer currently. You cannot hide a layer. You can only assign a layer from here. So these are part of columns. So I do columns here. So this is something that I do it in when I do the practice. So when I assign a layer, I make sure all the layers are off, especially the ones I'm assigning to. So that when I assign an element there, I will know whether they have been assigned to it or not. Similar way, now I'll select all the beams. From here, I'll connect it to beam. Now you can see they are hidden. That means I have done it right. Now this is roof. So probably if I have created, I'm not sure whether I have really created for that. So that just go to the folder view, training. Yeah, I have roof. So that's one. Now we have walls. So I select the wall tool, Control A, so that all the walls are selected. You can also assign the layer from here as well. So that was just one of the options that I showed it to you. This is the second option. So from both of this. This seems easier and faster. And finally, we have slabs. And we will also have ceiling. So here I'm not using Control A. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm manually selecting these things, and I'm going to assign it to ceilings here. So select ceiling here, and that will be assigned. Now you have rest of the curtain walls. So you can go for the curtain walls here and then assign that to facade. So this is a way of connecting those elements here. As you see, the older elements, like all the light equipments and all the things that are already part of the layers, and if I want to see everything back again, I do Control L. That will select all the layers. I just select all of them and then activate them. So they will all become visible. Now you can see the architectural layer, the structural layer, there is the MEP layer as well altogether here. So anybody has any doubt so far creating the layers or assigning the layers here? All right. So I'm assuming there are no doubts. So that was about the layers. And finally, we have the last part of today's session that is going to be on layer combinations. So just like how we did the pen combination, you can also create layer combinations. So layer combinations are mainly used where when you want to create multiple drawings. For example, you want to create architecture architectural drawings and structural drawings and MEP drawings, you may want to work on the visibility of certain elements in each type of drawing. Just for example, structural drawing, you don't want to see showcase the furnitures, or let's say in the electrical drawing, you don't want to focus on the furnitures or let's say the structural elements. So depending on how do you want to showcase your drawing in terms of its visibility, now you can create combinations of layers for each type of the drawing. So there is an easy method that I usually follow. So I go to the drawing, make sure all the elements are visible. And what I do is layer by layer, I'm going to turn off and I'm going to create the drawing here. So let's say I'm going to start with the structural drawing. So I don't want to see the beams or the electrical layer here. So right click, layer, hide layer. I don't want to see the furnitures. Again, layer, hide layer. So you can see that layer is turned off. You have false ceiling, you also have lights. So layer, hide layer. Now I can see that I'm focusing only on the architecture or structural part of the drawing. So you can also hide the site as well. So I do layer, hide layer. You can see now drawing is almost clear. Now let's call this as the structural layer combination. Now system is going to remember once you save it that this particular combination is mainly used for structural aspect, and that is what we are going to do here. All I'm going to do is go to layer settings, that is Control L, and without changing anything in the layer settings, I go to the layer combinations and click on new. What it does is it creates a new layer combination and I can name it as structural with whatever settings is there on the right side. Now that is what you will see. Now I go to the settings again, turn on everything. Let's say next one is architectural layer, for which I don't need the electrical layer and also don't need the lamps as well. So I do layer, hide layer again. Same method, just to organize. I don't want the false ceiling, so layer, hide layer, that will clear out. I don't want the beams as well, so I do layer, hide layer. So you can see I have, let's call this as architectural layer. Now, once it is done, same method, Control L and click on new here. It creates a combination and I'm going to name it as architectural. Right? I give OK. Now that creates a layer combination. Now how it matters is, let's say now I want to work on the structural. So all I do is here in the layer combination, I change it from architectural to structural, and you can see it immediately changed between them. So similar way, you can create it for different field or different type of drawing by working on the visibility of each of the element in the drawing. And this is going to be the starting point of for your documentation. So we created layer combinations, we created pen sets and things like that for starting the documentation part. Now making use of all these things together, working on its properties, we are going to start the documentation in the coming session. So this is what we have been prepared for today's session. If anybody has any doubt, please to ask. Otherwise, we will end the session. Also wanted to remind you all to join the next session earlier so that any doubt is there, we will be explaining that. And next session is completely going to be on documentation and be prepared for that as well. So anybody has any doubt? All right, then have a good weekend. See you on Monday. Thank you.